Yeah, I'm doing this video. It's not a video, actually. It's an audio. It's an audio. And I'm only doing audio because I'm in a hotel right now. Trying to find actually, I found some apartments I want to stay at. And now the problem is that I have to wait till a real estate agent or whoever calls me back because it's New Year's Day. So apparently they're not doing it today. They probably won't do Saturday or Sunday. So I'm probably going to end up burning another $250 at least on this quote unquote cheap motel. So if anyone's in Oregon right now and wants to help me not go broke, please help me not go broke. I will stay anywhere, considering staying in my car actually, but I can't sleep in my car. It's really hard for me to sleep. It's so uncomfortable because I have all my stuff in my car too, right? So I'm like halfway down in my seat. Anyways, so that's what's going on in this world. Curious what's going on with all of my listeners. Please call in. The call in option is open. We're just doing chat today. I mean, I guess you can use our video if you want, but I'm just doing chat. So if you want, you could just have your voice on the call. A true radio show, as it were. Because yeah, I don't have the streaming capacity for the other thing. If anyone also wants to, this is going to be a shorter show today. I can't do super long shows, but if you want to sponsor episodes of Intact Radio, go to Jordan Orell Patreon. It's also in the description of this video on Facebook and YouTube, and you can sponsor an hour of this show for $10. And if you want, you can choose any conversation topic related to intactivism that you like, and we will discuss that. And you can help me co-host the show. There's a Patreon reward related to this. If you want to become a monthly sponsor, that would be amazing. Right now I have a few monthly people, but not much. And so I'm mostly doing this out of the goodness of my heart. Yeah, would love to hear from any of y'all who want to call in. And right now I'm making rice. I'm making fried rice. I'm going to try to make fried rice while I'm on this call. So wish me luck. Right now I'm just cooking the rice itself before frying it. Not quite squishy enough, but close. Close. So we're going to talk about intactivism now. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask about intactivism, or any things you would like me to cover? Anyone watching this on Facebook or YouTube? No video today. 455 Buick, because I don't have the capacity for it with the hotel I'm in. Streaming, it just isn't good enough for that, or the internet isn't good enough for streaming, I should say, streaming video. So oh man, my live is still saying I'm having trouble connecting even now, even though I'm only doing audio. It's still saying something may be up with it. Okay. Anyways, all right. If no one has any requests, the Red Blue Belt said, any more protests planned in Los Angeles? The one like the protest you did at the hospital in West Hollywood on November 14th weekend? No, I didn't. Well, I'm not in Los Angeles anymore. I'm in Portland now. So I don't know what's going on in Los Angeles. Join LA Intactivists, the Facebook group, and you can learn more about what they're doing. I don't know what's going on there because I'm not there. Audio cut out for a minute. Yeah, I thought it might have. This thing said like some kind of error on here, even though it's only audio. That's kind of sucks. Wow, this is really bad quality. If you also want to sponsor my internet to be better for the next few days, just send me $20 and I will have high-speed internet. Um, Otherwise, you're going to have to deal with the audio cutting out because I don't have money. So, anyways, yeah. If there are no other requests for things I could talk about, then my default is to talk about healing. That's what I was thinking about and talk about a lot. So I'm gonna mention something around that, which is that intactivism is intense. You know, I've been thinking like, could I do this full time? Could I just be a full-time intactivist? I think a lot of intactivists dream or think about that, and some of them do. No, I'm not coming back to Los Angeles because LA sucks. I don't like LA. It's not. I didn't like my experience of it. I can't say all of it sucks. Period. But I'm living in Portland right now. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I was wondering, like, could I be just a full, like a Brother K kind of Marilyn Miles kind of thing, just intactivized 24/7? And I'm like, I don't know if I could actually do that, if that's realistic at all, because for me, I am like so angry and upset about this. The more I engage with it, it kind of drives me like insane, and so I'm like, maybe I should actually do my Master of Social Work degree that I've been thinking about. I just realized that I can't do Uber and Lyft in Portland, unfortunately, because my car is too old. It's 2008, and you need to be 2010 or newer in Portland. Although I can still do food delivery, which is fine. The great thing about food delivery is no one talks to you, so I can actually just meditate while I'm driving, which is great for healing because I have to meditate at least like 3 hours a day, just for maintenance, to not become insane or suicidal. So so I don't know, but I'm really considering doing like a Master of Social Work degree just because doing intactivism 24/7 just like is it's intense. It's a lot of work. Um, it's a lot of scariness or horror, perhaps is a better word, to confront on a daily basis. And you're just thinking about it more and more and more, and how awful it is. I will say that if you do a lot of intactivism and are kind of being like really boss about it, I think your testosterone picks up, your other neurochemicals, serotonin and dopamine go through the roof if you're like a really successful intactivist, and that kind of helps with depression and other things. I noticed when I was doing intact community and kind of setting all of that up, I actually felt really good, and like not traumatized at all, even though I was kind of thinking about this issue a lot. So I will say, if you can find intactivism that's really working and effective and also connects with people and feels like you're moving forward, that does really help to not feel so traumatized by it. Also, there's intactivism that's like front end intactivism where you're like talking to people about genital mutilation directly and explaining from square one like how horrible this is and why it's horrible and showing them videos of it and engaging with all the reasons circumcision is genital mutilation. And then on the other hand, there's sort of back end intactivism where you're organizing other intactivists, you're recruiting people, you're doing all this stuff that is like much more um, uh, back end or what's the other word I'm trying to think of? It's like behind the scenes kind of work, and it's not so traumatizing because you're just like thinking about broad strategic components or how to attract people or how to build a community or how to set up a Facebook group or whatever, and that stuff's not so bad. Um, Again, especially if you're being really productive and actually feel like you're moving the mission forward, it can feel pretty good. So those are some of my thoughts on trauma right now and my own trauma. It's like intactivism and your experience of it really depends upon. Did I just have connection issues again? I may be sporadically having connection issues. I'm considering actually going back to Zoom because I think that might just also be less. Although before when I was doing Zoom, I had terrible connection issues and other people weren't. I couldn't hear anyone when I was on Zoom. So I don't think I could actually handle Zoom right now with this internet at all. Uh, I'm considering using my phone internet, actually. I did that last night. Oh, I'm getting a message. Audio is still good. Okay, well, that's good. Okay. Yeah, so also, there's almost like a placebo effect of doing healing work. Like if you're seeing a trauma therapist and going every week and kind of processing it, I think the processing does work. It does help. There's a actual effect of that. But also just knowing that you're doing something to move forward and kind of reversing this trauma, and having someone else that you're like talking to about it, I think can be really helpful. Because I haven't been doing anything to address the trauma of it lately, except meditation, which has been super helpful. But other than that, I haven't been really fixing the trauma in any way. And it's like, it's wearing on me. It's so not fun for me to be dealing with this trauma constantly and not have any sort of path out of it. So I would recommend to anyone, as I have before, that you find a trauma therapist who is willing to work with this issue. A lot of them are. There's this kind of assumption that, oh, no therapist is able to work with circumcision, will just laugh at you or tell you it's not a real problem. That's not true. I'd say maybe that's true of like half of therapists. I think I actually saw a number somewhere that like half of therapists will dismiss it. And of the other half, there's probably some that don't totally get it, but they will like do their best to help you, and if you explain it to them a little bit, they can start to understand it. Um, and there are a decent number of therapists actually that really do get it, and um, especially if you can have them look into it. I hope my book will help with this. I'm going to publish a book on healing genital mutilation trauma, circumcision trauma soon, and you can share my book with your therapist and say, "Hey, look at this book. This is got some tips in you so that you don't say something really fucking stupid. Like, at least it's not as bad as FGM." Which my last therapist said to me, even though she was great, she was almost always on and like got it. She's like, "Well, Jordan, at least it's not as bad as female genital mutilation." Like, oh my fucking god, Amy, I want to stab your eyes out right now. She said at least a couple really stupid things that I wish that are kind of obvious if you know a little bit about the issue. And she did know a little bit, but she didn't know enough. So, anyways, my book will help with that with therapists, and you can give them my book. Say, read the last chapter at least, because it's specifically for therapists and will give you help in not saying stupid, invalidating things, and kind of give some guidance on how to be a better circumcision trauma therapist. But a standard trauma therapist will um, a standard trauma therapist will be able to do most of what is required. So I'm trying to figure out the wattage of this microwave as I'm talking and cook this food. This is ending up being more difficult. Cooking something I've never made before while I'm making a YouTube video. Okay. We now have 5 viewers. This is actually working now. Before it didn't give me the number of viewers, which was really annoying. Now it is giving me the number of viewers. Kind of cool. If anyone wants to call in, please call in. I'm not going to be on here for that long today. There is a thing where you can call in the description of this video. It says call in to join the discussion on RESTREAM, and then there's a link right after that. Which so that you can join and talk to me, because right now I'm just rambling about whatever I like to ramble about, which is kind of fun sometimes, but I don't know, it gets a little bit lonely all by myself. So call in. That's what I'm trying to say. No one's calling in. Request. I have a request for anyone watching the show right now. What, or after this is posted, watching the replay, what kind of guests do you want me to have on the show? If I was to invite any guests in Intactivism, could be anyone you know, who would you want me to have on here and talk with them about some aspect of Intactivism? Because I could have anybody, you know. Just comment, or you can call in and tell me what guests you want, and we can talk, and you can be my guest. What guests, or also, what topics would you want me to cover in Intactivism? What guests would you want me to cover? What would you want me to talk about with them? Or do you want me to talk about by myself? What other kind of show segments? Should I do a healing meditation segment? Should I do talking with pro-circumcision people and debating them? A Facebook user, which is someone says the link isn't working. God damn it. That's very probably true. David tried to call in. Okay, I'm gonna have to. Well, it's probably. I'm guessing it's my internet connection that's making the link not work. I'm gonna try from my phone really quick to see if that works. Anyone have any suggestions of guests you would like to have on the show, or topics you would like me to discuss? Okay, I'm gonna go on Intact community on Facebook and see if I can join. It may just be that the link is messed up. Okay. Join. Oops, that page doesn't exist. Okay, let me try something else. It may be that the link is old and that link expired. So that would be my guess when I look at that. Because it's supposed to be a permanent link, but maybe they only meant permanent for this stream. Okay, I just posted a link in the comments, or in the comment section of this video, so you should be able to join via that link, hopefully. Let me look at the link on YouTube, see if it, or Facebook, see if it is the same link. Could also be something else at the end. Yeah, I don't know, actually, it might just be the internet. Because I just posted it, and it kind of looks like it might be the same link. Sorry, we are still figuring out the technology of this. It's also kind of a problem that I am oh my goodness, I can't see Facebook reactions on my phone because I don't have a Facebook app. It's annoying. Okay, David did call in. Okay, so it's in the comments now. So now you want to call in. The link is in the comments. We'll repost it again. Just try to keep on reposting it. So David is now here with us. David, hello. David. Oh no, David is gone. Gosh dang. Does anyone want to sponsor my internet to be better? I'm almost tempted to just get it, but I don't have money. I'm losing $75 a night on this stupid hotel. David, hello.
Yo, sorry. My mic wasn't working for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Say it again. Okay, I heard a little bit of something.
Hello.
Hello? Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna turn on my hotspot on my phone and see if that works better, because that might actually do the trick. In which case, I'll just do that. Internet is. All right, David, can you hear me now?
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think it was your internet.
Yeah, I'm on my phone now, so or I'm on my phone internet on my hotspot. So I guess that's significantly better than the hotel internet. So I'll just do that, I guess, and hopefully this should be fine then. Cool. Well, how you doing?
I'm good. I've been watching. I keep missing the live show, so I'll do the recording of it.
Okay, cool. Is it? Are you getting anything out of it? I'm like, that's a weird question, but
yeah. I think the group discussion was pretty good.
The one where there's like 5 or 6
a lot of good insights people have.
Yeah, that was the one where there were a bunch of people.
Yeah, with the Brendan Murata. Yeah.
Oh, that was Intact Community. The groups, yeah, which is part of Intact, or Intact Radio is a part of Intact Community. But good, yeah. I'm glad you saw that one. I wish I could have posted it publicly, but I didn't get permission from everyone to post it publicly. I'll have to do that in the future. Because it's only on Intact Community on the Facebook page. So I guess this is a good plug for Intact Community on Facebook. If you want to see the group discussion we had with Brendan Murata, with other Intactivists, join Intact Community Facebook, and you can Facebook group, and you can see the discussion we had. Yeah, we did you watch the whole thing?
I watched most of it. I think I skipped some parts, but
okay.
I watched most of it. I think we need to start making more clips, because there's a lot of good, really good parts, but sometimes it's so long, I don't think people will listen to the whole thing.
For sure, yeah. Foreskin Police Kyle said that he was going to clip some things from a video I did with Carter.
And yeah, there was one on Facebook. I watched that. That was good.
Yeah, that was actually one Carter himself made. That was very good.
Oh, okay, nice.
Kyle said he wanted to make like a bunch of them, so I don't know if he's still planning on doing that or what. I sent him the video, but
I'm getting a new computer soon, so maybe once I get that, when I rewatch them, I'll start trying to clip some parts of it.
oh yeah, you said that you could too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think there are definitely some really good moments in the discussions, but yeah, a lot of it's like it just gets it drags on or becomes unfocused or whatever random rambling moments of silence and stuff.
No,
So
I find it therapeutic to listen to like Intactives talk just because I think they're really intelligent people and
mhm.
just don't get that from anyone else really. So it's nice.
Absolutely, yeah. Tanya and Ma had a great video about the character traits of intactivists, and definitely smarter than the average bunch. You have to have a certain willingness to question things, I think, which a lot of people
Yeah.
just don't. So
I think Brendan Rada he was on to something like uh, how we're all trying. The intact community is trying so hard to reach other people, but there's kind of like a lack of just support within the community itself. Like, and I think that's kind of like what I think is the top priority right now. Is
mm,
just like you said, you said I don't know where you said this, but just like getting our own lives like stable so that we can do more impactful work. I think that's really important.
yeah, definitely.
Kind of like what I am stuck on right now.
Yeah, I feel you. um, I'm definitely myself trying to get a place to live and figure out what I'm doing for work now because I can't do Uber and Lyft and whatnot. So feeling that pretty hardcore. It's
You can't do
it's
Uber
hard.
anymore.
I need a newer car
Hmm.
in Portland. Apparently, you have to have a 2000. It has to be 11 years old or newer, so 2010 or newer now. And I
Hmm.
think, yeah, I think LA was like 15 years or something. So I don't know why it's so much newer. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I can still do food delivery, which I guess is fine. It's not as I feel like it's a little bit lower tier of
You can do the
work.
Uber Eats or
I
what?
don't know if I can or not. I couldn't do that before because my car wasn't new enough, which was really weird. I don't know if they've changed that yet, but they used to have it
Hmm.
so that if you if you're not qualified for Uber, then you're not qualified to do Uber Eats. But all other like Grubhub, DoorDash, Postmates, you can all do. It doesn't matter how old your car is, because you don't drive people in your car, so it doesn't matter. Um, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna try Postmates right after this call. What's cool about Postmates is you can do it anywhere in the country. You don't even have to have a state insurance or anything. So I'm gonna try it out, and might also do college. Just go do Arizona State University online
Hmm.
and start working on my social work degree. What areas of life improvement are you needing to focus on?
Uh, well, I've been moving around a lot, so it's kind of nice to just have a stable place for a while. And
Sure.
getting a new computer, I might start trying to teach English online.
Oh, cool.
Um, or yeah, I'm trying to get into like some streaming too, like Twitch streaming, and see if
For
I
like
can
video
do
games
anything with
or
that. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
nice,
Um,
nice.
but I was doing like crypto trading and stock trading and stuff. But I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just not passionate about it.
Mm.
just want to do something else.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Important to find something that you actually enjoy.
Yeah, it's really important to do something you enjoy, because I don't know, you'll just get burnt out too easily, and it's just not good for your mental health.
Yep.
Do the best you can.
Yeah, I'm considering doing Master of Social Work because I just like helping people basically, and that's kind of what social work is all about. So I think that might
Yeah,
give me some motive to work hard and hopefully actually enjoy what I'm doing. You know?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, within tech community, I noticed with the feedback I got, it sounded like people didn't like they wanted to focus more on interactivism and not so much the community building aspect or like sharing personal lives, because there just wasn't enough time to do everything. But I think
Yeah,
sharing elements of your personal life and like supporting each other and improving your personal lives is totally legitimate way to actually improve interactivism too.
yeah. I
Because
guess everyone's in a different place. I mean, there's different outlets for different people, I guess.
true.
But I don't know. I'm kind of um, I'm more interested in, like, at least right now, just the trauma work and how to, because even if it's not circumcision, it still applies to like everybody, because everybody goes through some types of trauma at some point. So
Hmm.
I think it's an important thing to know how to like cope with and deal with.
Yeah, you mean like doing your own trauma work? You're interested in
Well,
exploring that?
yeah, my own, but just like when I'm working through my own, it's like I'm learning on like new things on how to deal with it. So I think it can apply to a lot of different people or different situations. But
For sure. Yeah, one of the hot topics right now in psychology is trauma sensitivity, and there's people who do trainings in trauma sensitivity for, like I met them just doing Uber and stuff, like people who go to schools and teach people how to sort of be sensitive to trauma that children might have experienced. Teach
yeah,
teachers how to do that. There's workplace trainings on trauma sensitivity. Yeah, it's a big topic, but it's super important. Uh, kind of kind of sexy right now, um, or in to talk about trauma and how it affects things. So I guess.
well, I think it's really important to be aware. Like, I'm sure you can relate. Like, when you're really suffering through your trauma, like I guess it affects everyone different, but it can be really hard to get anything done in your life like effectively.
Mhm.
But not only that, like some people are going through trauma and maybe they're like productive, but it might be sabotaging like other aspects of their life, and they're maybe not aware of it. And I think it's
Right.
important to like it for me personally, like the trauma comes with a lot of self-sabotaging type of behavior. Like I'm just not good enough to like, I don't feel the confidence or the motivation to like go after things because the trauma is just so overwhelming. And that's kind of what I'm working on myself.
Oh yeah, yeah. You was it? What was the book that you were? I think you mentioned you were reading a book on trauma.
Well, that's kind of, I
Or was that something
started to
else?
write one like,
Oh
I
wow.
don't know, maybe 6 months ago, because I had a bunch of ideas floating around.
Yeah.
But then I started moving, and I just got really busy and just haven't had the time. I was like dedicating myself to writing every day, and then I stopped. So I need to get back in the habit of doing it. But,
For sure. Yeah. Get out of
well,
the
it
habit.
was the early like the early onset trauma, I think, is what really fascinates me. Is something about not having the memory of things that happen to you is, I feel like, more devastating than, for example, like if you get in a car crash or something, like you directly know, okay, that's what traumatized me, and you can kind of work through it and understand it a little bit better. But I feel like when it's just completely stuck in your body and your psyche, or your subconscious, it's a lot harder to navigate through. And I feel like more research on like what are the symptoms of like childhood abuse and things like that are really important to recognize in people and help them work through it, cope with it, and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I wanted to read that Ron Goldman book, The Hidden Trauma. I haven't read that yet.
Yeah, that's a very good book on a lot of aspects of circumcision trauma. Would definitely I actually haven't finished it myself. I read about half of it, and it's funny sometimes reading anything about circumcision, even if it's trying to educate about trauma, is still too traumatic for me. It's too triggering.
Yeah. I was reading that. What book was I reading? Marked in Your Flesh. Have you heard that book?
No, I haven't. Yeah,
you
I was
have
recommended to it by
that book is really. I read like a third of it.
Yeah.
And then I just got so much information on, and like I just didn't want to. I like literally didn't want to learn anymore. I'm just like I can't focus on it that much. It's too much.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good information in that book. If you're interested on the history of it.
Yeah, I was recommended it to by a Jewish intactivist who said it's really good if you want to learn more about Judaism.
Yeah.
So I intend to read it eventually. Yeah, I'm on a hiatus from have been on a hiatus for a while. I'm just like doing any reading. It's interesting. I can make content and I can talk about it and say stuff that I already know, and it's almost therapeutic. But like reading stuff that's I don't know it's coming. There's something about that that's potentially traumatic or triggering.
I think it gets to a point where you've researched it so much and you like know so much more than the average person. It's almost just unnecessary to like learn more unless you want to be like a historian type person or something.
That's true. Yeah. There's
like, I can't take learning anymore about it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Some people feel like they need to know everything about it for some reason, and I actually think that's partly a product of trauma. It's trying to master it, and repetition compulsion is when you are trying to master trauma, so you're actually re-exposing yourself to the trauma. And the information itself is traumatic too. That's something I talk a lot about in my book, is that information can actually be traumatic, and learning about circumcision in itself is traumatic in addition to the procedure itself. And so you have to be aware of that when you're learning about it or educating.
I think that's what I went through, and I'm like still going through that. Is you feel like if you stop traumatizing yourself, you're gonna lose out on some effectiveness of your intactivism. Like you need to be constantly angry. You need to like know everything about the issue all the time and be like on top of it. But at some point, I feel like that's just not. It's just not beneficial anymore. Like because you have to be mentally healthy yourself. Like you like everyone deserves their own level of like mental stability and like comfort. And it, like you said, like just re-traumatizing yourself all the time is just, I don't think that's good for anybody.
Right. Yeah, that's so important and underrated in intactivism, the awareness of how our mental state affects our ability to actually be effective long term, and burnout, too.
Right.
Effective in the moment, just because if your emotions are overwhelmed, then you can't really um, communicate clearly and be level
Yeah.
headed. But then also long term, it's like if you can only be an active for a year and then you have to block it out for the rest of your life because it's just so overwhelming. I
Right.
think that happens to a lot of intactivists, a lot of people who
Yeah.
try to do
100%.
something under you and just like are like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Um, I've heard, I've heard that some people have said that happens to them. So, and had that be a threat to myself, just the longevity of being able to continue focus on this. Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah, you want to be acting from a place of calmness and confidence, and not from like. I think a big problem with a lot of intactivists is they do know so much that it gets very frustrating dealing with people.
yeah,
And you have to have when you're dealing with other people, you have to have a lot of patience and compassion. Like that they're not on the level that you are. Like they don't understand, and it might take a lot of time and patience to get them, maybe even to like any understanding, let alone like where you're at. So
right.
it's important to not to be happy, healthy yourself, and not be frustrated, and come from a place where you don't need them to understand, but you're just doing the best work that you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think intactivism becomes people's therapy in a way. They try to
Right.
get their own healing or their own fix
Yeah.
through activism, and and Brendan Murat has been a great advocate for saying, for him at least, who's pretty, I think he's a pretty effective intactivist. He's had to really separate them out and do therapy separately, um, and then do intactivism as in just intactivism. And yeah, I was just gonna say something else, then I forgot what it was. About that. Also, my rice is on the board of burning, so I'll take that off the stove. Yeah, something I wrote in my book that I really liked was, I think a lot of people see intactivists and how enraged we are and how angry we are and how upset we are and how the messaging can be so extreme sometimes and so um, traumatizing. And people look at that and are like, oh, wow, these guys must be totally insane. There's obviously something super wrong with them. Um,
Right.
so they
Right.
just dismiss this because it's like there must be something wrong with these people to have these
Yeah.
crazy ideas about circumcision. Whereas actually, it's kind of the other way around, and it's really circumcision that's causing us to be to act a little insane, because circumcision itself is genital
Right.
mutilation and is so traumatizing that it does drive you insane. So, but people don't make that cognitive leap. You have to kind of meet them closer to where they are. It's just too far outside of their
Yes.
zone of ability to reach, both intellectually and emotionally. It's too threatening. They don't want to even consider that it might be something that horrible. Um, so I think that's important to um, see, so that we can communicate to intactivists that actually it's making us less effective to not deal with our own trauma, not more
Yeah, I
effective.
completely agree. Coming from a place of anger and uh, I don't know, impatience is always it's almost like a religious person when they're trying to preach to you. Like you know when they just have an agenda, right? And
Mm.
once you know it's just about an agenda, like you don't want to listen to them anymore. People need personal, like a personal connection of some way. That's the most effective the most effective way to get people to listen. But I don't know. It's everyone's also different too. Some people react. Some people can handle more aggressive types of behavior, and some people just shut off completely.
True.
So.
Yeah, there's definitely room for all different types of activism, but I think we weight so heavily towards the more heavy-handed activism. Now, there's gentle activism too. I mean, Your Whole Baby is definitely pretty major organization that does gentle stuff. But in terms of men, there's not many men who are doing more gentle stuff. Because Your Whole Baby is mostly women. A lot of women in the groups and moms. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely a place for all emotions. I think it's important to have like a platform for people expressing their feelings around being mutilated and how that affects them. Even if it's, I don't know if it's activism, but I've thought about doing like testimonial therapy, which is where you write out a testimony of how you've been affected by some event and then present that testimony. And that's actually a form of therapy. Because it allows you to express all these emotions, but then also have it sort of seen by the community, so that that trauma can be recognized on a collective level. Because it is important for the collective to recognize the trauma too.
100%, 100%.
And that's something that is under-recognized.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like what your YouTube channel, I guess you could call it activism, but I think it leans more towards, like what you said, like more therapy and a safe place for people to talk about certain subjects. And
hello?
Yo, what's up?
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Who is this?
Hey guys.
Who are we talking to?
I'm just coming in as Anon.
Anon?
Yeah. I mean, I put my Reddit handle in case anyone wants to message me on Reddit, but I just wanted to join the conversation with you guys.
Are you from Facebook or YouTube?
YouTube.
Okay.
Came from YouTube. I was sent the stream on Reddit, but I just I've been listening for about 30 minutes or so. I don't know, 20 minutes maybe.
Is this streaming on Reddit, or is this posted on Reddit?
No, sorry. I was messaged the YouTube link just by a buddy of mine that I talked to through Reddit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is my first time on your channel. I'm new to all of this, actually. I'd say I'm about a month in to kind of, maybe a little more than a month in, learning about all of this stuff.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Recent, yeah.
Very, very new, very fresh. I kind of just wanted to throw in some, I think you guys have talked about a lot of important things, especially with the overlap between the trauma and the activism that has to take place. And like one of the biggest problems is probably most of the people who want to help are, going through the trauma themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, this is just something I was thinking about while listening to you guys in terms of, I remember you guys were talking about how some people will kind of look at you and they realize you have an agenda and then they shut off. And it's like, maybe the best way to go about it isn't trying to prove all of like the science behind it, Well, maybe the better approach could be like coming in at just a human rights standpoint, as opposed to just listing off all of the scientific things. I think people would shut down that quicker, just in terms of realizing you have an agenda. I think people have a sense of like connectivity, and people will realize and be able to like believe you almost if you're going through the trauma. So I
Yeah,
feel like you don't need to kind of list off everything. Like if you're face to face with someone, I feel like they can tell, if you're going through something, if that makes sense. And I think kind of showcasing that, the emotional aspect of it.
yeah,
But it's
it's
hard, right? Because you
yeah,
want to get mad and you want to
right.
do all that stuff. And you got to find the happy medium of being affected.
Yeah, I think what Jordan said about like sharing your experience, because people can like whatever, they can debate the science even though it's not really debatable, but
Exactly.
they can try to debate it, but they can't. If you have a personal connection with someone and you're talking to them face to face, they can't deny what your experience is.
Exactly.
And I think that your own testimony is always going to be more powerful than just listing off a bunch of facts. Because
I completely
you
agree.
can get those facts online. Like if you're really willing to research it, you can learn everything you need in 5 minutes. Or I mean, you can find everything you need in 5 minutes. But people are just not interested. They're not interested in learning. So yeah, I think you're completely right. Which is why um, you have to work on yourself every day. Like trauma work is like a daily thing, and you have to have some sort of routine or something that gets you into a positive framework to where you can do work from. Like even if it's not in activism, just day to day, like having a good life, having like a decent life. Um, you have to learn to cope with your trauma and get yourself to a good place every day.
Absolutely. I think talking about it and all the communities that have been created are extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there's definitely a certain amount of, people who don't want to know the truth. Either that or it's just a level of like, if you're a 50-year-old dude and you think something your whole life, and then you're told this horrific pretty much truth, it's not really going to be something you're easily going to believe. It's almost like your subconscious is trying to protect your brain from the impending trauma of what could be
Absolutely.
the actual truth. And that's why I
Absolutely.
feel
And
like,
that's actually a side effect of trauma itself.
and that's why I feel like maybe the best way isn't to be
Sorry, you
preaching
can go
all of
ahead.
the science. But I don't know. I'm obviously new, so I don't know nearly as much as most people within the community. Not in terms of like the science, but just in terms of intactivism and what's going on in the world, like how people are intactive. This is I'll be honest, this is my first time kind of I guess being a part of it. I don't know what you would call this, but
Yeah, for sure. Participating
I think
in a way.
another important thing would be like, since everyone who's trying to do this is going through the trauma, there's a certain it would be super helpful if we had like more allies, and it's like you see that with like what's a good example? I guess like rape victims. It's like no one's gonna dispute that those people are going through something. So I think at this point in America, or the whole world really, like we're so connected, it's more just about, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It's more about just getting people to believe you on an emotional level, and then they'll be your ally, and they don't need to question the science as much. But obviously, I do know that's important for getting parents to be aware when they make that unfortunate decision for their child.
Yeah, Carter Steinhoff is someone who has been on the show before and made a similar point. So I think you are onto something. He talks about he's one of the best, if not the best, personal talking to people about circumcision person that I've met, and he really has this whole thing about how what you have to do is be totally emotionally vulnerable. That's like his main kind of point. You have to be totally open with your experience, as well as like the physical, like actually explaining it, like explaining emotionally is part of it, but then you also, I mean, you do have to show that you're not just overreacting in some way, because there are crazy people who react to random things in different ways. But being able to do both, kind of show your emotional reaction to it and show how it's actually affecting you, and then also explain sort of the anatomy of the foreskin and what's lost, and
Right.
or he'll also like show people actual videos of the procedure to show how horrible it is. He'll just like take out his phone and show them on the spot, which is another ballsy but really good tool to show
Definitely
people
ballsy.
the horror of it.
I like to something I like to do. I like to, when I'm wearing long sleeves, if I'm talking to someone, you can just make a fist, kind of pretend that's like the glands, and I find that to be a really good way to explain things. If you pull your sleeve over, and then you can, I feel like people can visualize what you're explaining much easier when you have just like a physical, like just my hand. I feel like I've explained it to people, and they seem to react much better when I have that demonstration, because I think while showing people the surgery would be effective with some people, I think a large majority of people wouldn't even click, right? Because it's back to that thing of like, if I don't know about it, then it can't hurt me.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's like a willful ignorance. It's like,
Yeah,
exactly. I don't want to go down that road.
Exactly.
I had that for a while too, actually. When I first learned about circumcision, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I read an article online, and it completely clicked with me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's 100% wrong. Like, so it's crazy. But like the trauma didn't hit me until my friend started talking to me about it, and I'm like, look, I know what you're saying. I already understand it, but I don't think you should go down that road. I think it's like I'm like, I don't think you should like focus on it too much. It's too devastating. And I started doing like more and more research, and then I really like my anger and trauma started getting more involved, because I guess I got more of a scope of what I was missing, and that's even why like sometimes I don't want to even, maybe this is wrong, but sometimes I don't even want to inform people, just because it's just like I'm opening up this huge trauma rabbit hole for them, and it's like I almost feel responsible for doing that. If that makes sense.
Totally. It's almost like you feel like you have to apologize for them.
Yeah.
Like to them. Like, I'm so sorry that I had to be the one to break this to you.
Exactly. Because I know like how fucking painful it is.
Yeah, that was one of my main issues for the first 5 years that I was dealing with it. Is I have an insanely I don't know if it's empathy or just being too nice or whatever, but I'm not good at doing anything that might be offensive or harmful to anyone in any way. And so it was really, really insanely difficult for me to start talking about it for that reason, as well as because of my own trauma. But which brings me back to why I started talking about it, which is because I went through the trauma work of actually processing that trauma. And after I had kind of processed my own trauma, I was much more able to talk to other people about it, because I wasn't so terrified that there's no way out, because I knew that I could show them, oh, if you're traumatized by this, if this is upsetting, then you can do EMDR, or you can do other forms of body therapy, and it'll kind of help you through that. So
I almost came to a place where like the willful ignorance thing is a very selfish act, because maybe it's beneficial for you, but like what about the next generation? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
It's like
That's why it's important, though. You know.
it's like you have
It's
to
like-
suffer a lot to get to that place of like, I just want to help the next generation because it's the right thing to do. That's simple.
Yeah.
I know, and it's so annoying that people think we're just like angry, like almost like incels, I guess you could say. It's like
Yeah.
they just invalidate us because they see the emotion or whatever.
Right.
Jessica Rigdon on my first podcast said it really well, and kind of actually opened my eyes a little bit to a different way of thinking about it, which is it hurts the child much more than it's going to hurt the adult's feelings.
Right.
Having
Exactly.
the children's genitals mutilated and then ad infinitum to the future generations is infinitely worse than harming one adult's emotions, even if it is traumatic for a certain number of men. And it's not traumatic for every man. Not every man responds in the same way at all. So my brother learned about it and seems to be fine. He's actually a porn star now. Yeah. And so, I mean, he's restoring, but he's actually, a lot of men aren't as traumatized by it as at least as I am, which is an extreme amount.
I think also that could have to do with maybe personal experiences that you've had. I know that I can speak to it. Like, I never knew about all of this, but when I read about it, it was like it all clicked, you know?
Yeah.
Almost like flashbacks to like all of the problems that you know, like chafing, whether just like uncomfortable during the day, because you just think it's normal. You don't question
Exactly.
what seems to be so obviously normal. So that when you do learn, it's like, holy shit.
That's what I was trying to talk about, Jordan, with is the early onset trauma is much more difficult to deal with, because like if something happens to you as an adult, you have a before the event and an after the event. And you're like, okay, I was normal before, and now I'm having all these problems. But the early childhood trauma, it's just like you don't have a different like a way of separating who am I and what is the trauma. It's you just think you are the trauma. You think that's your personality. You're just fucked up, and that's how you are, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's really a really tough thing to deal with.
And actually, pretty much all personality disorders are very correlated with trauma. Borderline personality disorder is the biggest one. It's almost totally caused, as far as we understand, by childhood trauma. But all personality disorders are basically, if you have a lot of childhood trauma, it becomes built into your personality rather than being sort of like PTSD or other things that happen to you as an adult, disorders that are caused as an adult, are a lot easier to cure than than sort of things that become baked in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is also pretty, it's kind of in its own vein, right? Because it's like, it's trauma that we don't remember. However, it's trauma that we can visually and physically feel every day. So it's like, people almost don't believe you that you can have like PTSD from something that you have no memory of. But it's so much more than that, because every single day you have a literal reminder. You have something that's showing. So it's like, I'm not trying to put down other types of traumatic experiences, but this one is definitely pretty bad because it's not like you can. And I'm not. Please don't take this as me downplaying other traumatic experiences. I'm not. But I do think that there's a added level to this one because it's not just mental. It's not just, if it was like, I really don't want to make a comparison because I think people could maybe see that negatively, but I think you guys see the point I'm making. It's really its own type of thing because you can't remember it, but you are reminded every day in a very real way, not just mental. I mean, definitely mental, but also physical.
For sure. I mean, that's part of what makes it so hard to treat too, is because it's re-traumatizing you in a sense every day when you're having to deal with your cock and you're manipulating it and you're going pee and you're having sex or masturbating or whatever, and you're having to deal with the consequences of it. I think a lot of men can't understand how this could be traumatizing to a guy if they're circumcised and they're fine with it, because they don't perceive how it's affecting them. It's affecting them, but they don't realize how it's affecting them. Once you're kind of aware of it, you can be much more attuned to how it's actually affecting you. Like you said, you kind of wake up to, the chafing, or it burns when I pee, or I need lube, or I have trouble getting off, or whatever it is. There's a lot of different consequences. But once you learn to relate that to circumcision, then it's can actually constantly be triggering you, basically. Anytime that you think about your own body or your experience of sex or anything like that. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, for me, like, I've had so much anxiety and depression in my life. That's like starting when I went through puberty, and so I was a complete drug addict. Just tried to kill myself many times. All this fucking insanity, and I feel like a huge part of it came from that trauma. And I would be willing, like, if I just had the physical part back, I would literally get it. I could forgive all of that in like a second. Like, all of that would just mean nothing to me, even though it was like a decade of just pure hell. I could just forget about it. But the fact it's like a permanent scar on my body just makes it almost unbearable to deal with. And that's kind of, I think you're completely right.
It's very poignant. Absolutely. That's I think that spoke to so many men's experience of it. Yeah. The fact that
that's what I think restoring can help with that. Obviously, there's the two sides of the coin to it because it's a constant reminder. And obviously, I'm very new, but looking at pictures before I started definitely helps me stay level-headed and kind of remind myself that I'm doing something positive.
Yeah. That's actually the main reason I had to start restoring. Not even the physical part was like, whatever. I needed to have that daily thing where it's like, I can take some power back or something over my physical body.
Oh, yeah. I think for me, I would say it's 75% mental, 25% physical.
Yeah. Because I know, like, it's going to take me like a decade or more to even get to like a point that I'm remotely happy with, but it's just like, that doesn't even matter to me that much.
For sure.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. I think another thing too is like, if about the early childhood thing, if you grew up, hold on, let me go to another point too. Like, another thing with a circumcision trauma, like, it doesn't really hit you until you're sexually active. Like, and I feel like you don't really get the full traumatic effect until you get into your like 20s or even 30s. And by the time you're 30, you lose so much feeling, and it's really hard to cope with, because it's like, I don't know, I have to live
Physical
another 40
feeling
years with
or
this.
mental feeling.
Like the real trauma of circumcision doesn't hit you until you become sexually active, if that makes sense. Because as a
definitely.
child, for example, I don't feel like I was traumatized as a kid, but I feel like once I hit puberty, and I like that lack of self-confidence, and then even like
So
after I got
did you know about what had happened to you by that point, or were you
I
just traumatized and
I
you didn't know
always knew
why?
I was quote unquote circumcised,
Right.
but I actually thought it was normal. Like, and I never knew that there was a scar. Like, I never knew that was a scar. I thought that was normal. Like, that's just what I thought that's what I thought as like a kid, like a 6, 7, 8 year old, whatever.
Yep.
And
Are you American?
yeah, what was I gonna say? And then I met my wife when I was like, how old was I? 22. And now I've been with her for 6 years, and it's just like, I feel like the trauma is only really setting in now. It's like I found like my soulmate, the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, and I'm only 28 years old. Like, I should be in the peak of my life, but it's just like now it's just getting worse and worse. Like sexual, like physically, it just goes downhill so fast. Like, so many men need like the Viagra and all that stuff. I don't know. It's really hard to cope with that.
No, I think you're raising an excellent point. Like, that's also part of what makes it hard to spread our message, because people will be like, well, you weren't mad for the first X amount of years of your life. And it's like, yeah, but I didn't know, because we're misinformed. Not even misinformed. I would say uninformed.
And when you're 18, like when you're an 18-year-old, you're young, like your body's healthy. You might not think it's that big of a deal, but as you get older and older, it becomes like, it gets exponentially worse, I guess you could say. But,
definitely.
And then the other thing I was gonna say was, if you grew up to be an adult, and then you went to a psychiatrist, or you were talking to anyone, and then you said, oh yeah, my uncle used to beat me and molest me as like a 5-year-old, people would immediately like have compassion and understand your behavior. Like, if you were having sporadic behavior or something, they'd like, oh yeah, well, he was beaten and molested as a kid, so obviously, But with circumcision, it's just like you're completely disregarded in every way. It's just like salt on the wound. After everything you go through, it's just like, on top of that, you're just completely disregarded in every possible way. Wow.
I think
it's really hard to just have forgiveness.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to be the bigger person. Almost.
Yeah, you literally do. It's crazy.
I think that's also a result of kind of the state of the world, and how it kind of picks and chooses what battles are like woke, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
This one definitely is not in the spotlight.
Okay.
It's not going to be held as the example you gave of if a kid were to say, or you were to say that when you were a kid you got molested and abused.
It's just like, oh yeah, well, he's a drug addict. He was abused and molested as a kid. Okay, well, that's probably why he's a drug addict, right? But it's just like, this issue is just like, all your trauma is just meaningless. Like, all your addictions or behavior, like, it's completely disregarded. It's just like, you're kind of just on your own in a way to like cope with it, deal with it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important that we as a community can get people who are not a part of our community to support us.
Yeah, I think that is like the tipping point, I think.
Just us. I think it's obviously, the community is obviously growing, so it's going the right direction. But until we can really break into the mainstream, and I think that's how you do it. You get people that are not affected at all to believe you. Not even believe you, but just understand that you are clearly going through something that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I used to have that talk with my friend too, and it's like, there's so many problems in the world, especially now, like so many huge problems that we don't have too much of an impact on. But circumcision is the one thing that is so easy to fix. All it takes is just basic education and the parents to just say no. Like if we can't even stop that from happening, like what hope do we have? What hope do we have for anything else? Like any other change? Like it is literally the easiest topic. You have complete control. Like you have a son. It's your responsibility to care for him. If you can't even protect your own baby, like there's really not much hope for anything else. That's the way I see it. It's kind of sad.
So do you think it's a better angle to reach the public before you go for like government?
Well, absolutely. I think the government thing is extremely important because that's.
But I think it might be impossible until you get.
Yeah. Well, they used to do surgery on newborns, like any types of surgery, because they thought they didn't feel pain, and it was only outlawed when the parents started complaining about it. So I think in the end, the parents can do whatever they want with you, right? Like they take you home, you're a newborn baby. Your parents can do anything they want to you. Like they could kill you, molest you, do anything. The parents is where it happens. Like they have full power over your life, for better or for worse. Like that's just the way life works. And the government can't stop that. There's nothing the government, I mean, I wouldn't say the government can't stop that, but what I'm saying is the biggest priority is getting parents to protect their own children. And then on from there, I think obviously we would want laws to like, I mean, at least minimum like life in prison for doing something like that. That's what I would say. But
what do you guys think about Andrew Yang? Can Andrew Yang make
he's a joke.
Pro-activist comments? No, you think he's a joke?
He's a joke. Yeah, he's a complete joke. He panders to all. He said he was against circumcision, and then he backpedaled and tried to please all the Jews and stuff. He's not a real activist.
Oh, I didn't know he backpedaled that.
Yeah, he did a bunch of backpedaling. He was saying some good stuff for a second, and then he's like, "Oh man, I can't go down this road. I'll lose all my funding. Like I won't get anywhere politically if I go down that road."
That's interesting. I didn't actually know about that. Was that where was he talking about that?
Yeah.
I saw him on Joe Rogan, but did he talk about that on there at all?
I don't know. I didn't watch that Joe Rogan one.
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of. I think it was after that he.
But that makes perfect sense. I mean, that's the climate of politics. You gotta just adhere to whatever's the hot topic. So I'm not surprised he backpedaled.
Yeah, I don't feel I feel mixed about it. I think he's not that aware of the issue. Brendan Murata's position was kind of that, it's probably more accurate that the first thing he said, which directly contradicted the second thing he said, was probably more true. And that, maybe it just wasn't the sword to die on. He wasn't, he didn't have enough support to make a kind of bold statement like that without it derailing his campaign, even more than it already was. So I don't know. Politically, it wasn't necessarily the wrong move, even if it was morally the wrong move. So, but I would say that I don't think he's as aware of it as any of us, or I think he saw American circumcision, or I know he saw American circumcision, and I think that's the extent of what he was aware of. I don't think he knew really.
Is that a film?
Yes, his documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, I think, right now. Still was on Netflix, but no longer.
Oh, really? They took it off?
Yeah, it was on there for like what a year or 2 years. Wow.
Dude, I thought it was a miracle it got on there at all. Like, I was really shocked.
I was about
that
to
it even
say
got
that's
on
very surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
there. That was cool though. I watched that when it first came out on Netflix. I was really happy with that.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Good overview, or at least introductory overview of the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that Andrew Yang stuff, but I think that goes to show that we should not be relying on any legislation before, trying to just let the public know. And I think that's part of the problem is like no one even knows anything. So they just have a baby and then they go and then the doctor tells them that's their first time ever hearing anything. Really. So then it's like, okay, I believe you, and then they do it. But it's like we need to at least put the seed of thought into their mind. Like, hey, like maybe just read about it, as opposed to like giving them the info. It's like, hey, just like spend some time on your own before you go talk to this doctor, because they are not all knowing. They just are diligent readers, good exam takers, steady hand. They're not that much more capable than you and I, if at all.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think the politics is probably going to follow where public opinion is, and that's probably what has to change first. I thought it was really cool though that Yang talked about it at all. Actually, I wrote him in for that reason. But
no,
I thought so too. It's better than nothing, I guess. That's for sure.
Definitely, yeah. I don't think it's ever been talked about by a presidential candidate ever.
Yeah.
In the history of
that is
the world.
That's crazy.
It's better to not shine any light on it. Yeah. Any mention of it is just it's too risky for them to even talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much education to realize it's completely insane. You could research it for about 20 minutes, and it's about all it takes. You would think, at least.
I know, but I think maybe
there's no way you can watch a video about it and then still be indifferent.
I mean, if you look up just circumcision, I feel like most of the articles will be positive/neutral, but
absolutely
never will they be neutral/negative or like just plain negative. You have to dig deep, or not dig deep. Include keywords in your search, like trauma or something. I don't know. I think that's part of the problem is like people just not getting exposed to all of the information. They're getting exposed to just one side of it.
For sure. The question is how to reach a lot of people, right?
How to do that.
Scale the message up and reach the general public, as we said earlier.
I mean, how have other it's just so hard to even relate this to other things. I was going to ask, what have other movements similar to this one, what angles have they taken? But this is really just such a niche. It's just really one of its own problems. Very hard to relate it to something else, I think. And that's what makes it difficult to spread, because unless you like understand the emotion, it's hard to come to terms with it.
Right. It's such a psychological thing, I think. I was trying to think like, well, there was like cigarettes was like everyone thought it was healthy, and then eventually there was that tipping point where like, oh shit, this is giving everyone cancer, and then it was obvious. But I think with the psychological element and the trauma element, it makes it very confusing to deal with. Because there's so many, people can always justify it in so many weird ways, and people just go along with it. They just say, oh, okay, because they're traumatized or they don't want to deal with it. So
Yeah, they don't want to be traumatized. So
who really wants to deal with their genitals being mutilated? Like, it's like the worst topic that you can possibly talk about. Nobody wants to have that conversation. No. It's like, all right, let's move on from this topic as fast as possible.
Yeah,
and that's
again,
why
that's
I
one
think
of
it's
the
best
reasons.
to avoid like the sciencey, like, because we don't want to hurt the feelings of like circumcised guys who don't have a problem with it. And I think that's like, it comes off as like a sides thing, like us versus them. But it's like they're not really
Sure.
in it at all. They're just byproducts that are not actually making their own opinion. They're just following the opinion of what they were told.
I think we hit on a good thing earlier where it's just like what Jordan was talking about is about being vulnerable is probably the most powerful way to do it, and just being honest with your testimony. And I would say most people are not going to just shut you out, but it's just like being that, like, for me personally, like, I don't want to be a traumatized person. I don't want to bring it up. Like, when I go out with my friends, like, do I want to bring that up? No, I just want to like try to enjoy my life. So it's kind of a hard thing to like build that confidence where you could just bring it up and have it not be a big deal for you, and not trigger a bunch of trauma, and be able to just handle that.
Totally,
So I guess
especially
that's
if
what I'm
you're
working on.
restoring,
Yeah.
you know. Because I think that's also like, I'm in here as Anon, you know. It's like, because I'm not fully over it. None of us are. It's very hard to kind of own up to that and just be like so okay with it almost. But like you said, just so vocal.
Yeah, just to the point where you can just, I don't know, you see other people, maybe they lost some limbs or something, and they can be very inspirational people because they're willing to like just talk about it openly. Even though just like imagine how fucking hard that is. Like they don't have two arms or something. It's just like it's in their face all the time. It's like building that mental resilience to just face it down without like it just crumbling your day, basically, without it just ruining your day.
That's actually, that example you gave is something that gives me a lot of, when I'm feeling down, I try to tell myself that, because we're in a situation where we do have some control, and there is something that we can do. And there's a lot of people who have problems where there's nothing they can do. And I think that's important. Like perspective. I know when I'm feeling down, I like to just remind myself that I have some control at least. That's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the chat, the more you talk about it, the easier it gets. It's very true. Very true. But
yeah, I've brought it up a couple times with like friends. It's not always easy to, even when, you know, I don't think I was bringing it up at inappropriate times. I feel like the conversation, like it's obviously doesn't come up normally in conversation, but it wasn't a complete non sequitur. But even then, it's not easy. So
no.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to be the guy to just randomly bring up like dicks? It's just like awkward. Like it's like I just want to have a normal time with people. like constantly bringing up that. But that's part of the thing that is making it not a taboo thing. I think that's what you're talking about. Is like we have to get to that point where it's not taboo to talk about, and I think that's a really hard point to get to.
I think that's a good place to look at the gay movement, actually. Right, it used to be like homosexuality was just a disease that you have. It's like this weird perversion or a sin. And ultimately, what finally pushed it through, one of the main tactics was love is love, right? It's about love. It's about, and a lot of gay people coming out with their stories and sharing their experience with loving it. And it still is. I mean, it still is the same thing that it always was. It's fucking guys in the butt. It's still that too. But it's how you frame it and what aspect of you focus it on. And so there's ways of focusing on the positive or framing it so that it's not so traumatizing. Like I was thinking, like, why not do a crowdfunding campaign for Joe Rogan's regenerated foreskin? We could probably raise a few $1 million and raise a lot of awareness by doing something fun and hilarious like that. By doing a right, like a campaign where it's like donate $5, help Joe get his foreskin back. It would be hilarious, but it would also actually like make people think about it, because you could legitly say everything that we're saying and explain why the foreskin's important, but from kind of a positive, fun, quirky sort of way. Or you can also come from the angle of we're protecting babies, like, right, we're preaching love for children, love and kindness toward our children, giving children autonomy, rather than we're trying to prevent genital mutilation. So, or you can focus on foreskin regeneration or restoration or what have you. You can focus on how you're kind of working through your own trauma and healing. And I don't know, I think there's always a way to try to make it a little bit more palatable so that people don't shut down so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
I saw. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, on that, I saw. I forget what I was looking up, but I was looking up something activism related, and I saw some poster or billboard of some sort, maybe like a virtual just image slip, and I couldn't even it said something abrasive along the lines of like circumcised men have never had sex or something like that, and I didn't even want to finish reading the rest of that. I think we're kind of talking about doing the opposite tactic of that, is preaching love and not scaring people. I've seen some activist material that the purpose was to scare people, and I personally thought the scary stuff was very not effective, at least for me. I didn't even want to look at the rest of it, so.
Yeah, I think it just spreads easier, is my opinion. Not always. Sometimes, I mean, it's definitely good to be vulnerable and show. I think that's actually a good angle to come from. Someone was saying this the other day, coming from the angle of sort of mental health and like, this is about men's mental health, right? This is about men being able to be vulnerable and evolved and admit that we're hurt by something. I think it's actually a very positive angle in a way, because it's like saying that we're helping men to be vulnerable about something rather than we're just angry and hateful because we're white supremacists or something, which I think is how a lot of people are probably going to end up seeing it. If you're a little bit more vulnerable and willing to show that you're really hurt, then it becomes harder to dismiss. But just, I don't know, some men are drawn to more angry and rageful comments. probably just not people on my YouTube channel. I think that's a valid strategy works for some. If you're a more angry person. Not that I'm not angry. I get angry. I just I try to like stop being angry when I am angry. Or my impulse isn't to like attack people or be aggressive, because that's just too traumatic for me. If that makes sense. I gotta go soon, guys. Gotta go work.
All right, well, I think that was a good talk.
Absolutely. Glad
I pretty much
you both
shot out what I wanted to get out.
And
So my
logged out.
audio stuff was messed up.
If you leave, Jordan, does the stream keep going or does it shut off?
It will have to shut off because this is through my phone, and the phone is going with me because I have to go work. So the internet will be off.
I feel like we had a pretty productive convo.
Yeah, I think that's enough information for me for one night. But I really enjoyed talking. It really helps me to get some of those thoughts out. It was nice to talk to you.
About it is very important. You know, starts with us.
Yeah, you should come back to the stream.
Yeah, is there like any scheduling to this or?
And Jordan, you should keep doing this even if it's depressing at times. It's good to keep going.
For sure, yeah. Right now,
or maybe if you can't do it, we can get like some guest hosts to take over. Like if you're working or something, that'd be a good idea too. Sure.
When can you start?
Whenever, I guess.
Cool. Yeah.
If people are interested and will come, then I'll do it. But if I'm just gonna sit there like talking to myself, then
people have been coming pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Oh, so and I think you were asking way earlier before I joined the call, like who we would like to see, and honestly, I would like to talk to someone who's pro circ. Just like, because once you can maybe move those experts, then the rest will follow.
So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
But like I don't really know how we would. Do you have any like access to people that you know are openly pro?
I don't think there's a lot of like coherent, like educated people who are pro circ. Like it's hard to find.
There was one guy actually.
A lot of ignorant people who are pro circ.
Channel for a little bit. Who was Circumcision Choice is the main. It may be the only place where you can find some people who are actually have a lot of information and they and are very pro choice, circumcision choice for parents.
Yeah, I think it would have to be someone who's informed, not just someone who's ignorantly, like I feel like they would have to know at least the anatomy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could do that. I'd have to go track them down, but
I mean, obviously only if others would be interested. But I know I'd be interested to at least get inside their head and see what they're thinking.
For sure. Well, the people who are educated about it have pretty different ideas than 99% of people who are pro circumcision. It's actually a pretty different viewpoint.
So it's difficult to find those because it's like once you know, you shouldn't be on that side.
Yeah.
It's all from ignorance. That's the only way they get it through. People being completely ignorant about it.
I mean, there must, but I guess like doctors would be a good start, you know, because it's like they clearly know what's how the anatomy works and stuff. And there's no
Not
dispute.
necessarily.
No, they actually don't at all. It's kind of hilarious and sad.
I guess I meant like they know if you were to say the word like keywords like glands and stuff. I don't know.
I guess they know what a
That's what I
foreskin
mean.
is, but
That's
they
what I
don't
mean by
know
know,
anything about it.
not knowing what we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my experience, they don't know anything more than the common person knows, actually. I mean, I guess glands, but that's just the same as head. But I think everyone knows what the head of the penis and the foreskin. I guess maybe they know slightly more about what a foreskin actually looks like because they cut it off.
Because they cut it off routinely. Yeah. They should.
A lot of people haven't even seen it before.
I mean, I've talked to a urologist, and they told me they knew it decreased sensitivity. But in the same conversation, they also told me that they did it to their son. So I did.
Yeah, it's good if we can get doctors on our side too. That's any doctor we could get on our side is really good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, if we could get the quote unquote experts, which through society's eyes are always probably going to be the doctors, if we can get them, like, I think the rest would definitely follow. But it's just a matter of convincing them that like what they've read
we have a lot of the British doctors on our side and things like that, don't we?
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't like a bunch of the medical stuff that's based out like from third world countries that's based off like doctors base that off
the United States?
Like, don't doctors here base their opinions off of research that was conducted in less than pristine environments?
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like it's just a matter of convincing them, like, hey, if you shower every day, pretty much.
I think the most recent statement from the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend circumcision for health reasons. I think even in the U.S., the medical professionals understand that it's bogus. They say that it's fine for traditional reasons, but
yeah, whatever that means.
Yeah,
but I think that you're correct in that aspect. But each individual doctor all around the United States is going to have their own little nugget of whatever they want to say. You know, they're not just reading off that website. But you are correct. That website does say it's not recommended. But I know that I don't know about most doctors, but a lot of doctors are not wording. They're not saying that to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics that goes on in hospitals about what doctors are pressured to say or not say. I think part of the challenge of it, which I like the social organizing element of trying to get activists together and coherent. Definitely lobbying doctors, I think, is an underrated strategy because doctors are, at least a lot of doctors are more open than we tend to assume. You just have to approach them in the right way, and yeah, find the way to get that conversation going, so that people can really be open to it. If you come too aggressively at them, then they'll be defensive.
Yeah, but I think one of the comments in the chat. I'm not trying to be like conspiracy theorist over here, but like our current healthcare system is based off of, you know, you're hurt, I can help, pay me, I'll help. So it's like they're inclined to give you some sort of service, whether that be over medicating you or cutting off a piece of your body so that later in life you'll need to come back and get their magic pills. I don't think it's mainly that though. I think that would be a massive conspiracy, but
There's
I think
definitely a
that is part of the
financial
problem.
incentive.
Just the structure of the healthcare system is, it inclines doctors to sell you something. They're kind of like a businessman.
Yep. True. All right, I gotta go, guys. Thanks
All
a lot
right.
for
Well,
joining.
well, Jordan, if you want me to take over any days, you could. I don't know. You can message me on Facebook and we can figure it out or something.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. That would definitely help give me more time.
Because if
And
you're doing this every day, you'll probably get burnt out at some point.
yeah, it's just a lot of time. I have other things I
Yeah.
need to do too.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you should do this daily. I don't know if that would be the best for mental health. A couple times a week, though, definitely. I think it would
yeah.
help the growth of all of this.
What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, and no, there is no regular time yet. I'm moving in the process of moving right now. I'm actually in a hotel room and trying to figure out stuff. So there, I don't. And today I actually slept for like 15 hours. I was going to do this a lot earlier in the day. So I'm just all over the place right now. Hopefully it will
Are you guys
be
on Reddit?
at a more regular time eventually. What was that?
Are you guys on Reddit in the community there? That's pretty much where I am. I'm not on Facebook or anything.
I'm not. I'm on YouTube, but I could post this in Reddit before the calls. Someone just said I should do
Oh, you
that.
definitely should, dude.
Before.
Definitely. I think at least a handful more people would join
Yeah.
on the foreskin restoration sub. I mean, you could spam it into anything, Cirque Grief, but I think pretty much everyone who's in all those subs will be inside the foreskin restoration sub.
Cool. We'll do that.
That's where I came from.
You came from Reddit.
I came from that's where I have been past month, and a buddy of
You
mine
found his
messaged.
YouTube channel.
No, a buddy of mine was watching this, and he linked me.
Oh, okay.
That's why this is my first time with you guys and stuff. This is my yeah.
So it's on the Reddit foreskin restoration. That's where it is.
No. I was like directly messaged this.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying, yeah. So I'm suggesting that Jordan does make like a public post on that subreddit, but I'm saying that like myself, I was just directly messaged the YouTube link
Okay.
from a different person who's watching or was watching. But yeah, I think there's about 15,000 people in the subreddit.
Restoration?
Yeah, 15,000, and there's generally like a little bit over 100 people online at a time, depending on what time of day it is.
Wow.
Have you guys been on there?
I haven't really done.
I
much
don't
on
use
Reddit.
Reddit at all, honestly.
So, wow, that's pretty interesting. So, what do you guys do when you have questions about like restoring?
There used to be a forum that Ron Lau actually ran,
Oh wow.
and that's so I got most of my information from that like 8 years ago. That was closed.
Are you still restoring?
At some point? Yeah, I am. I'm 7 years in and got 20 or 30 years to go. So
20 or 30?
something like that. It's hard to estimate because of it's very slow for me. Like really
What are you using?
slow. Currently, I've been using a TLC Packer. Actually, I stopped using that recently though because I was injured, so now I'm just doing manual. But I've used the TLCX and the DTR as well before.
I mean, I think you're overestimating, to be honest. I mean, I don't know what your daily routines are, but Most people on the sub, I would say 10 to 20 total.
Maybe.
I mean,
Try not to be
obviously,
too optimistic.
yeah. I'm not trying to.
I've gone from CI3
I
to
just
4.
I just wanted to let you guys know about that subreddit because that's where I've gotten everything.
I always refer people there from Foragin. And then after I refer them there, they're like, fuck Foragin, because everyone on Reddit is anti-Foragin. But it's whatever. I'm just nice like that.
For Gen or for like restoration?
Foragin, they're doing foreskin regeneration.
Yeah.
Heard of them?
Mhm.
But people are really cynical on Reddit about Foragin for some reason. I don't know if that came.
Well, I think, yeah, like I wouldn't say be cynical about it, but just don't. I would say don't bank on it. You know, like don't wait for it. That's
For
what I
sure.
would say. If someone's going through the trauma, I would say just start off with the manuals. If you don't have time, buy a device if you can.
Yeah, that's what I tell people.
But you guys should definitely join that community. It's like it's been really nice for me to be able to just kind of be in a community. It's normalized it for me a lot, I think.
For
yeah.
sure. Check it out. Oh, and join Intact Community if you're on Facebook.
I'm not on Facebook.
Wow,
I don't trust that
fuck
shit.
you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you if you don't trust Facebook. I am Facebook. Just
I
kidding,
am
hate
Mark
Facebook.
Zuckerberg.
This is just a ploy.
Yeah, but if
I
you
don't
guys
know.
ever want my handle is my Reddit handle, like my thing on here, ATX32pop. That's mine on here.
Gotcha. All right, talk to y'all soon.
All right, man.
David will reach out to you about the thing.
Sure. Sounds good.
Well, guys, I'll probably
Alrighty.
talk to you guys somewhat soon.
Yeah, try to
thanks,
get
guys.
back on here.
Definitely, I definitely will.
I'll get on that Reddit and try to advertise
Yeah,
on there.
I'm actually really surprised you guys aren't on there. It's a great place.
All right, Jordan. Have a good night, man.
All right, guys. Good night.
See you, David. See you later.
Yeah, good night.
See you, Anon. Thanks for joining King Squid.